welcome to Athar's Garage. In this video, I'll be working on the Kyosho Ultima RB7.5, steps 1 through 5. So let's get started. Along with steps 1 through 5, I looked in the manual earlier, we're going to need some grease. So I took the grease out of bag number 3 and I got the black grease. So just take note of that, you're going to need some of that. Interesting that they gave some tools with the kit. So we're gonna put together the steering rack and steering system first. So I'm just taking a close look at the parts. This part, the steering rack, is aluminum, as well as the bell crank. So pretty excited that those are aluminum off the bat, because this is usually a $30 option part, as well as these bell cranks from most manufacturers, if not more. So we have to take note of the orientation of the steering rack, that the flat side is going to face up and this side, which is not flat, is going to face down. So it's going to go like this. So we have these little spacer bushings, part number UB026. They look like this. Those are going to need a little bit of grease on them. So that's why I got the grease out of bag number 3. So I'm just going to take a hobby knife and try to put a little bit of grease on the shaft. Try to make sure that you don't get anything on the inside, just because the screws that's going to go inside will need some thread lock, and we don't want that getting contaminated so the thread lock doesn't work. So from the top side, we're going to go ahead and insert that bushing with a little bit of that grease. I'm just going to take a rag and wipe off any excess grease, so that way it doesn't attract any dirt or dust, carpet fibers. So there we go. Now, since my experience with the Schumacher and some of the parts that we put some thread lock on came undone, I'm going to clean some of the screws and aluminum bits with some brake parts cleaner. If I wasn't doing a video, I'd put it in my ultrasonic cleaner, but this will help save time. And then we're going to need 2 3x7/0.5 washers and 1 ball stud UB047 and 2 ball studs UB046. The UB047 is the black ball stud, and the other ones are slightly like silver in color. We're also going to need 2 M3x10 button head screws, so let's go ahead and grab those. And these screws will get Loctite, so I'm just going to clean them off real quick. So both the bell cranks are identical. They don't look like they're different side to side, so we're going to go ahead and install one. So I'm going to go ahead and insert the screw first, and then I will add some Loctite. You don't want to put too much, because if you put too much, the Loctite is going to get into the bushing and then seize up and it won't rotate freely. I've seen that happen quite a bit at the track. moves nice and free, like it should. All right, bell cranks move nice and free. We're going to go ahead and install the black ball stud UB047 in this hole right here with some blue Loctite as well. One thing that I dislike about Kyosho ball studs is that there's no hex on here. You have to end up using a wrench, but that's all right. All right, so there we go. Next we need the two 3x7.5 washers, and they were in the bag that there's 6 of those washers. I believe they're in the same bag that has the hardware for the servo mount. So we're going to go ahead and install that washer on the UB046 ball stud, and then we'll go ahead and install that onto the steering rack. Okay, there we go. So that's it for step 1. Let's go ahead and move on to step 2. Plastic quality is nice. One of the few kits that is actually manufactured in the country it was designed in. So Kyosho was designed in Japan and also made in Japan, at least for this kit. So it's pretty cool to see that. So let's go ahead and install the steering components first. We're going to need this part here, which is UB009. And I'm going to go ahead and clean this with some cleaner since it is going to see some Loctite. You also need 2 M3x6 screws. So let's go ahead and get those and clean those as well. They will be getting some Loctite. It doesn't say to use Loctite in the manual, but since it is going into aluminum, you want to make sure that they don't come undone, especially since it's part of the steering rack. All right, so there's a cutout on the bottom of, I'm going to call this the ball stud mount, where the ball studs for the front go. The cutout is hexagonal, so that way you don't need to hold back up on this aluminum piece. You kind of just drop it in and it'll hold back up. It kind of is supposed to press in just like so. Interesting design. There we go. Now we need 2 5x7.1, part number UB009. So these are these little washers or shims. We're going to go ahead and put those on the posts. They fit nicely. Next, we're going to install 2 bearings. They're 5x8x2.5. So we can go ahead and install those on the posts as well. Next, we can install our steering bell cranks onto those bearings, and then install the next set of bearings, same size, 5x8x2.5, on top of the steering bell cranks, like so. Next, we're going to install the M3x6 button head screws, and we're going to install those with a little bit of Loctite. If you put too much, you're going to seize up that bearing, so take note of that. If you put too much on your screw, just do a light dab on a towel and take off any excess. All right, it's tight, and as you can see, it moves nice and free. Now we can install our long ball studs, which are part number UB049. And we're going to use two 3x7/0.1 washers. And we're going to install them in this location in the center on the ball stud mount, here and here. And the 3x7/0.1 washers are actually these right here on the parts tree. They're the plastic ones. Surprised that they didn't include them as aluminum, since most times in most kits they are aluminum ball stud washers. So just take note of that. Let's go ahead and get these off the parts tree. And then again, we're going to use a 5.5-inch wrench, and then we're going to go ahead and install them into the ball stud mount. So that's it for step 2, the front bulkhead. I call this the ball stud mount. Now we can install this onto the main chassis. We're going to need 2 M3x8 flathead screws, and these will be screwing into these aluminum posts here. They're going to screw into here. So we want to clean these as well to make sure that Loctite works and stays on here. So the screws are going to install in these two countersunk holes, here and here. That's it for step 3. Still moves nice and free. Now we can prepare our front suspension. So I'm going to set the chassis aside for now. We're going to get our front suspension arms ready to go. And then we'll install it onto the front bulkhead or pivot block. Depends on who you're talking to. The plastic quality is top notch, feels a lot stiffer than most brands. Barely no flashing lines, just feels really good in the hand. So not surprised, Kyosho is known for its quality, so pretty excited. So we're gonna assemble the front suspension, and it shows basically the top view in the manual, so just take note of that as you assemble it. In the manual, I believe it shows the plastic version of this front bulkhead, but this is the aluminum one. We want to face the number 25 forward, and one way to know that is this little notch right here. That notch is going to face the back of the car. So let's assemble it this way. Back of the car over here, front of the car over here. And then I know my suspension arms, the screws install from the back side. And so this is the front and this is the back for the arms. I'm gonna clean this real quick because we have 2 set screws that go in there that hold the pins in place. And the reason I'm cleaning is just in case there's any manufacturing coolant or grease that they sometimes, or oils that they put on these parts so they don't rust as they're in shipping. The last piece is this right here. It's part number UB024. Want to make sure that you put this in the correct orientation. So as you look at it now, this side is up and this side is the bottom. There's this little ridge, so it's a little thicker at the top than it is at the bottom. So just take note of that. So it's going to install like so. And then our suspension pins have a long and a short area, and the long is going to face the front of the vehicle. So just take note of that. So it's going to install like so. You're going to have just like so. Oh man, that moves nice and free. Make sure that the flat on that shaft is pointing up. I'm going to go ahead and do this side as well. Next, we're going to take two M3x3 screws, set screws, and we're going to install it with a little bit of blue Loctite since this is aluminum. And just make sure those flats on that shaft are facing towards the screw holes. Don't want too much thread lock on these small screws just in case they get seized in there. And moves nice and free. Next, we're going to install, looks like M2x6x5mm screws in these holes on the back of the suspension arms here and here. And those are just going to be to secure those pins, make sure they don't back out if those set screws come loose. And if for some reason it's not rotating freely, it's probably because that little screw is applying pressure on that pin. So make sure that pin is a little bit inside the arm and it's not pushed against this little screw head here. Otherwise it's going to cause it to bind up. So there we go. So now we can install this assembly onto the chassis. We're going to need our little shim that goes in between the bulkhead and the chassis. We're going to use, the part number is UB023, and we're going to use the 0.5 version. So it's 0.5 thick. All right, so it's going to be this one here. We have the front bulkhead with the numbers facing on this side, so it's this one right here that we're going to use. So let's go ahead and get that off the parts tree. And since it's so thin, I think they have some larger molding piece here that we're going to have to cut. So there we are. So we can go ahead and flip our chassis over. We're going to install this little shim right here, and then our front bulkhead assembly. We're going to need, at this point, two M3x15 screws that are flatheads. And we're going to install in these two holes here, the ones in the back. this back on. Next, we're going to go ahead and install our front bumper. And then we're going to install the front bumper with 2 M3x15 flathead screws. All right, that's it for step 5. As you can see, suspension arms move super free, not a lot of play, so it's going to be nice and tight, as well as our steering system moves nice and free as well. Super cool to see that they included all aluminum here, as well as the aluminum bulkhead as well. So that's it for this video. That is step 1 through step 5. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Let me know down in the comments if you have any experience with this buggy. Stay tuned for the next video, which will be the servo installation, steps 6 and 7. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.